Let's talk about how you keep ending up with a narcissist, and are you to blame for this? The reason I want to talk about this is because I kind of see this a lot in the narcissistic abuse community. I get this question a lot. Some folks are feeling like they are being blamed, or there's a lot of victim blaming going around, where some folks are saying, well, if you choose to be with the narcissist and you stay with the narcissist, then it is your fault. So I want to talk about if that's true or not and what that really means. So to start with, let's just answer this basic question first. Do you have any responsibility or ownership for being in a relationship with a narcissist? As much as I would absolutely love to say no, that's just simply not the case. Is it your fault that you are with the narcissist? No. Are you to blame? No. So this is not really about fault. This is not about passing judgment. This is about understanding how we get ourselves in situations where we are in these patterns of relationships that are unhealthy. And typically we end up with people who are narcissistic. Let me tell you how you may have found yourself in this pattern and talk about your role or your responsibility and how it's not actually your fault. So the first question is, how did this come to be? How did I find myself in this? Now, let me just say this first, because sometimes folks are like, oh, that isn't true, and this didn't happen to me. And guys, please understand there are exceptions to everything. When I speak about certain situations, I am talking about the likelihood statistically. I am talking about probability. I'm not talking about absolutes. So that means many people, probably even most, have experienced certain situations that lead them to unhealthy partners, but that isn't always the case, and there are exceptions. So let me put that disclaimer out there because I get a lot of those kind of comments on my videos. So just wanted to say that. Typically, we learn, not typically, always, I'm gonna go so far as to say always, we learn about relationships from our primary caregivers. These would be our parents or whoever raised you. We know nothing about relationships except the relationships we have with them and the relationships that we witness. We witness our parents' relationship or our caregivers' relationship, or maybe we were raised by a single parent and there was only one parent there, and so we didn't even witness a romantic relationship at all. So a part of this is things we have learned about relationships from witnessing our caregivers' relationships, but more importantly, it's about the relationship that we had with them, how we felt, and what that dynamic was like. So if that relationship with those primary caregivers is healthy, and as a result of that, we have a good, solid, healthy sense of self, a good, solid, healthy self-esteem, we feel self-confident, we feel loved, we feel worthy based on those relationships, then we tend to sort of seek those out in our adulthood because that's all we know about relationships, and we were given what we needed to be able to feel good about ourselves and know that we deserve a healthy relationship. Secondly, we kind of know what that looks like if we witnessed it. Now, if we had a relationship with our caregivers where maybe they were emotionally unavailable, maybe they were neglectful, maybe they were harmful to us emotionally, maybe they said things to put us down, maybe we didn't feel worthy, maybe we didn't feel loved, maybe we felt unwanted. So that's what we learned about relationships, that those feelings are common, are familiar. We start to believe it's normal to kind of feel that way in relationships. And we also kind of walk away from that feeling like, even if it's on a subconscious level and we're not fully consciously aware of it, that we're undeserving of love, we're undeserving of healthy relationships. And if that's your situation, as it is for many who find themselves in unhealthy narcissistic relationships, for one, we tend to unconsciously seek out partners that mirror what we saw. We seek out partners that feel familiar, that feel comfortable to us. You know, we're always trying to we always feel comfortable in what feels like home, whether home was positive or not, whether home was healthy or not. Home is home, and it creates a certain type of feeling, um, familiarity, maybe even warm feelings, even if it wasn't the ideal family situation. It's all we know, it's comfortable, it's familiar. So we tend to seek it out for that reason. Another reason we tend to seek these relationships out is because subconsciously we have a desire to repair that initial early broken relationship with that caregiver. And because we don't do the work there, we try to, of course, this is not a conscious thing, but we are drawn to partners that can help us kind of work through this internal conflict. We are drawn to romantic partners that are going to bring up those wounds we experienced during our childhood in those early relationships in an attempt to resolve those wounds. That inner child wants to be healed, that inner child wants to be heard, that inner child wants to be seen. And so we subconsciously recreate those relationships. So that is how it happens. And so, is this your fault? Absolutely not. How could it be your fault? You were a child. What you learned about relationships, you learned from your own parents or caregivers. You didn't create it. You don't consciously say, oh, in adulthood, I want to find the most unhealthy narcissistic person ever, to have a relationship with. Or you don't even consciously say, oh, I want to seek out a partner that is going to help me access my childhood wounds and work through that. So we don't, it's not something we are consciously directly choosing. Therefore, it can't be a fault type of situation. So understand that when you hear that it's your role and it's your responsibility to understand how you ended up in this situation, that it's not about fault. It's not about blaming. And I understand that can be triggering for a lot of folks. It was triggering for me in the beginning until I fully accepted that I really need to look at myself. I need to go back to my childhood. I need to really look at how I ended up in the situation that I'm in so that I can change those patterns, so that I can work on myself, so that I can recognize when I am falling into that pattern of being with an unhealthy partner, and when I'm falling back into a place of low self-confidence, low self-worth, self-doubt, low self-esteem, because that is going to lead me to the very type of person that is going to be harmful to me, that is going to reinforce those negative core beliefs that I have as a result of childhood issues. So I have to be able to see that about myself so that I can fix that and I can change the pattern of relationships with others. Okay. First starts with fixing your relationship with yourself, unlearning things that you've learned, challenging and changing those negative core beliefs that you have as a result of dysfunctional, unhealthy childhood dynamics with caregivers. So it's not about fault at all. Now let's talk about kind of a few exceptions. So I'm going to add this in because yes, there are exceptions, and I know I'm going to get that. Sometimes I hear from folks, oh, I grew up in a very loving home, and I still ended up with a narcissist. I'm going to say two things about that. One is that absolutely that can happen. Okay. The narcissist is so skillful at manipulating folks, and what you see in the beginning is not who they are as the relationship progresses, and you have been fooled. They can fool anyone. Now, there are three parts. The second part of that is the mask, it comes off, okay? They cannot, because they are narcissists, it's who they are, they cannot maintain that facade 24/7. Like, you are going to see signs, you are going to see red flags. Whether or not you chose to acknowledge that, whether or not you chose to do anything about that, for other reasons, there are reasons that we choose to ignore red flags. Sometimes we are already too trauma bonded with these people. Sometimes we are in a situation where we see it, but we don't know what to do about it. Sometimes we're in a situation where we see it, but we're afraid to do anything about it. So it makes sense that even though you see these red flags sometimes, you still stay. So again, that it's not really about your fault that, oh, you're still with these people, you don't leave, you don't stay. It's just that you were kind of manipulated into this situation, and we're loving people. Many of us are empaths. We really care about these people. We want to give them chances, and before you know it, you feel stuck and trapped, and it's hard to do anything about it until eventually you do. So there are those situations where we see the red flags. We either, don't do anything about it for the reasons that I gave. And then there are also situations where we tend to idolize our caregivers and parents. We are, for self-preservation purposes, often in denial about the reality of our childhood situation. So sometimes things weren't as great as they appeared to be on the surface. Sometimes we have to choose to not see the dysfunction and unhealthy dynamics in our childhoods because it's very painful. It makes it very clear to me that our instinct to survive, especially as children, emotionally, psychologically, and even physically, is going to far outweigh our desire to, or even ability to, see the reality of our situation and try and do anything about it and make sense of it. That comes later in life. Of course, as we gain the ability to reason better and kind of think about things on a more complex, abstract level, whenever we are able to see past the surface and maybe identify what was going on an emotional and mental, psychological level, then we have more awareness about what our childhoods were really like. So I'm not saying that, if you believe you had a perfect childhood, you didn't. I'm saying perhaps you did, and you still ended up snowed and fooled by the narcissist. Or maybe things were not as great as you believe that they are. So it's just something to think about. And I wanted to really put this out here because I do see this a lot. I get this a lot. I totally understand it. I get it. No one wants to be blamed for being in a harmful relationship with a narcissist. It's not your fault. It never will be, never was. We have a role in that. There are things about us that led us to those relationships, and we want to be able to identify what they are so that we can change it. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Have you felt blamed for being with a narcissist? Have you been, feeling like you're kind of made to believe that it's your fault? Or does what I'm saying kind of resonate with you? And if you have any questions about it, put that in the comment section down below as well. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. That really does help my channel. Share this video out with others who may benefit from this topic. And if you have not subscribed, what are you waiting on? We'd love to have you be a part of this community. And until next time, take care. Bye.